So, Michael Popok, Legal AF, time to clear up another misconception masquerading as a defense for Donald Trump in the D.C. election interference case going to trial in March, presided over by Tanya Chutkan. First of all, we now have a new defense which has about as much merit as all his other defenses. Now, Donald Trump and his lawyers are conflating two independent concepts. The concept of election fraud, which is what they claimed throughout November, December, and January, and leading into Jan 6th, was their argument, now completely dispatched and debunked, that there was so much fraud in the voting process, meaning at the ballot box, through software, through hardware, through dead people voting, absentee ballots that were improperly mailed in or postmarked, dead people voting, ghost writers, ghost ballots, Chinese ballots, and everything else. Software meant to flip votes that were meant for Trump to Biden, overvoting, undervoting, and the like. That was the fraud with a capital F that Donald Trump used at the basis of his big lie to cling to power as part of his pressure campaign. That's it. That's the fraud. Now, Donald Trump is claiming that that's not what he was claiming at all, that he was talking about foreign interference by state actors to try to influence the electorate when they went to the ballot box. Do you see the difference? The fraud that Donald Trump always relied on, and is at the heart of his indictment, is that he told people time and time again, ad nauseum to anyone that would listen, that there was outcome determinative fraud, so much fraud that it impacted and changed the outcome of the election. And that's how Joe Biden won. He didn't win fair and square. He won, according to Donald Trump, because software glitches, hardware glitches, ballot glitches, intentional fraud committed by people in and around Joe Biden, the Democratic Party, the use of thumb drives with fake votes, pumping them up for Joe Biden, Venezuelan software that flipped Trump votes to Biden, and all of that. That is the fraud. Now he claims in his most recent filing, we're getting a window into the world of Donald Trump's crazy mind, and one that's not going to work. Now they're saying that what Donald Trump was really concerned about, and goes to his criminal mind and criminal intent, is that there was, to pull one line out of the indictment, he's arguing now that his indictment is based on, he's being indicted for causing an atmosphere of mistrust and anger to erode the public faith in the administration of the 2020 election. Newsflash, that's not what Donald Trump has been indicted for. It is part of the dicta of the narrative of the indictment. It is not the gravamen of the indictment. It's not the heart of the indictment. It's not the elements of the crimes of the indictment. It's part of the context, right? The background facts, the color of the argument, of the indictment, of the narrative. To say that as part of everything else that he did, he also tried to sow the seeds of mistrust and anger and erode public confidence in the administration of the election system. Donald Trump says, aha, he latches on to that one sentence in the indictment from the summer and says, no, speaking of eroding the public's confidence in the election process, that's because there was foreign interference. But the foreign interference, not to conflate the two concepts, which Donald Trump wants us to do, and I won't do here as I provide a bright line analysis of the difference and why we know that wasn't what Donald Trump was talking about back in Georgia with his perfect phone call, or all the other phone calls and meetings he had with election officials and elected officials had nothing to do with foreign interference, that there were trolls and state actors for Russia, Cuba, Venezuela, Iran, that was trying to change the hearts and minds of American citizens, to put brother against brother, to put us at each other's throats, so that we wouldn't vote for X, Y, and Z. That's a different argument. That's not the indictment, because that's not what he did. But now Donald Trump is saying that there is evidence, this is on page 23 of his most recent filing, evidence of covert foreign disinformation campaigns relating to the 2020 election supports the defense's argument that President Trump and others acted in good faith even if certain reports were ultimately determined to be inaccurate. And so they want the judge to order the Department of Justice turn over all sorts of irrelevant information about the 2016 and the 2020 election, some of which was reviewed and identified by the Jan 6 committee. Who cares? It is common knowledge, right? It is received wisdom that bad actors in states that don't like us want to destabilize our country. And one of the ways they do it, to try to divide and conquer, is through social media and disinformation campaigns operated through media and social media against the hearts and minds of the American people. That's not is that a spoiler alert? Should I like preface that by saying, in case you haven't been around since the 1940s, countries do this. We do our own version of it, to be candid. And so for Donald Trump to say, aha, I was the great protector of the election interference led by foreign state actors like Putin and others against our country, and that's what I was trying to get to the bottom of. I wasn't clinging to power. I was just hanging around long enough to clean up a spill on aisle 45. Come on. Those are two different things. His argument had always been there was fraud in the election in the ballot box and how it was operated, how it was counted, and what was stuffed in there electronically, by mail, absentee ballot, or otherwise. And now he's claiming, no, that's not that crazy guy, forget that crazy guy. I got a new theory. I was trying to get to the bottom of foreign election interference in our elections to try to influence people who went into the ballot box. That was the fraud. Oh, right, that's the fraud now. And so he's trying to, throw sand in the gears of justice and the efficient process of our justice system marching towards a March trial date by asking for irrelevant information and claiming that he is the keeper of the flame about foreign misinformation, which is ironic because there's been a number of FBI agents and Homeland Security personnel and congresspeople who are on the Intelligence Committee who have always claimed that Donald Trump was an agent of the Russian government, willingly or unwittingly, that he had been co-opted and manipulated by the Russians. That's part of what's at the bottom of the Mueller report, which does not absolve Donald Trump. So it's ironic that the guy who may or may not be a operative of one of our enemies of the state is claiming that he was really a double agent trying to bring down the enemies of the state. But it doesn't matter because that was not the focus of the big lie. The big lie is that Trump won and Biden lost, and Biden only won on paper, not fair and square, but because of the fraud in the ballot box. Not because some Russian troll convinced some homemaker in Idaho, right, that Joe Biden, is the better choice, or Trump wasn't, or whatever the thing was. Look, our enemies of the state, and I can reel off those countries: Iran, China, Cuba, Venezuela, Russia. They probably wanted Donald Trump to win, not Joe Biden. Joe Biden has been a war hawk his entire life, right? That's not the kind of person you want as the commander-in-chief. You want somebody docile, who's afraid, who's compromised, who you can dangle money and transactions in front of and he'll change his mind. You want the weaker-minded person to be in office. And you want the country to be weakened by his rhetoric as the president. And the country at each other's throats, like in the Civil War era, to weaken the remaining superpower in the world, United States of America. What better way to do that but to install a feckless, weak, yellow, and I mean that from courage standpoint, president who is manipulated, thin-skinned, narcissistic, and is, always looking to cut a deal for the art of the deal. That's, if I'm trying to destabilize America, boop, that's who I put on top. That's who I crown president, not Joe Biden. So be careful what your arguments are, because that could open the door to testimony about you being a covert foreign agent or being co-opted by governments like Russia, which would also explain what's going on in Mar-a-Lago with Donald Trump's retention of national security, national defense information documents, because once he gets out of office, he's very transactional. He could use them with these foreign powers. I mean, you could link these two things together quite easily. But on this hot take, we're focused on the newfound defense that Donald Trump is going to use, that he was just trying to ferret out as an undercover agent, foreign influence in our elections. He wasn't trying to cling to power, and that destroys his mens rea, his criminal intent, his purpose as part of the conspiracy. At least that's the argument that the lawyers for Donald Trump are making. We'll continue to follow all the developments leading into the trial in March of Donald Trump. Only one place, on Legal AF and on the MeidasTouch network. You can get me on hot takes like this one about every day, if not every hour. If you like this one, give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment. It helps with the ratings, keeps me on the air, so to speak. And on Wednesdays and Saturdays, join us for Legal AF. We curate a show. If you like hot takes, who doesn't like hot takes? You're going to love the long format curated podcast we call Legal AF. Because there I have another podcast anchor, also a practicing lawyer, prosecutor, ex-prosecutor on Wednesdays, another civil rights lawyer on Saturdays. We pull it all together. We take the top 5 stories at the intersection of law, politics, and justice, and we bring them to you like this, but there's 2 of us. So join us there on YouTube. Free subscribe to the MeidasTouch YouTube channel, and then get us on podcasts wherever you get your podcasts from. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.